Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining in with the Wolves Den podcast. I'm here with Ryan
What's up? What's up?
and myself. So don't forget, before we start, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. Drop a comment below if you like our topics or whatever topic we're talking about today.
And today's topic's pretty cool. I mean, I know we're going to get into a couple things before we dive right into the chewy center of this, but today we're going to be talking about the status of cannabis in sports, mainly U.S. sports, because I don't know a whole lot about cricket. And then, just a couple random things I pulled up throughout the week that I thought was interesting. And then how did we get here as a country as a whole with this whole situation with cannabis and why it's so stupid? So we're going to be talking about all that, but maybe we should give a little update about our week so far. And how was your week so far, dude?
My week was okay, a little rough, but it's going good. Just a lot of work, being busy, dealing with other clothing brands and dealing with their messages and everyone else like we deal with. Just busy. How about you?
Good. I actually wait. What kind of other clothing brands? Like competing ones, or people you're trying to find to print your stuff on?
Both.
Okay.
Just both.
So you're trying to like shut out the competition, but then you're also like, hey, do you want to like put my stuff on your?
I think
That's
more.
kinda cool.
I think we're more like trying to like
Reach out.
not much reach out, but just kind of like make friends, just get ideas of what other people are doing, and kind of instead of being a competition with each other all the time, just kind of figuring out how we can work together, that our shit's not copying their shit.
I mean, that's
You
a
know?
better business model, right?
Yeah.
Just be cool.
Yeah, just be cool with each other.
You know what's funny though? Once you start printing stuff for yourself or a company that you're trying to blow up, figuratively, it's funny how nerdy you get about like clothing details, like cloth and and like blends.
Yeah.
You're like, man, I need a better poly cotton blend than this. Like you never thought you'd hear yourself saying that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it gets like more expensive the better material you get,
Yeah.
and so the price goes up for everybody.
Well, and then what's funny too is you're like, the only reason some of these places or outlets can sell so low is because they buy in such high bulk.
Yeah.
And they got 20,000 larges in a warehouse somewhere, and average Joe like me and yourself, where are we going to put all that shit?
Yeah.
So we can't buy quite in that quantity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of pricey.
They also probably have a connect overseas.
Yeah, I have a lot of people overseas that buy my clothing, and they, like a lot of military guys, or even like just law enforcement or regular people out there. Like, I get messages all the time. I got a message from a boxer recently that he was trying to buy our clothing out in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wanted ours to ship clothing out to him, which is cool because like we're worldwide now, so we ship all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, so it's cool. Tactical Inc. Is our clothing brand, tactical_Inc. You can find us on Instagram. Inc is spelled INK.
Yeah,
So
and when I first ran into it, I thought you were a tattoo thing.
Yeah, everyone
because of
thinks
that
a
reason,
tattoo.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was kind of.
But you got a lot of
The niche.
tattoos, so it kind of works.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I had a cool question, and I was gonna ask it later, but I'm thinking, why the fuck not just ask it now?
Well, you didn't give us an update. What happened with your week?
Oh, that's true. I didn't even do that. So with the ADD and the weed is kicking in here, guys. Later, we're jumping timelines, so stay with me. No, so my week was good. Nothing crazy. It's just I took a week off because I was on vacation. I went to Joshua Tree, as you can see. I thought it was a fitting T-shirt to wear today, since I'm gonna be talking about some little interstellar stuff with you guys. But yeah, since I took a week off, my body definitely wasn't conditioned how it was before. Not that I'm like an Adonis of a man, but clearly I was in better shape than I was 2 weeks ago, or than I am now. So I woke up. I went Monday morning, Tuesday night this week, and I was gonna go Wednesday morning, and I woke up with the worst leg cramps that I've had in my life, and it's not cramps, but just soreness. And I don't think it was from class. I just like it always is. I was doing farmer carries in the garage, and I was getting a little too carried away. So I think my dumbass went a little too ham after a week of not doing it, and which is usually the reason. And now I'm walking like an old man or someone that just got out of Shawshank. So, it's been good, though. I just got to pace myself. I'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just needed literally my old man legs needed 2 days. Because you hit me up and you're like, you good? And I was laughing them all. I love how I get wellness checks, though. It is nice. But I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just literally like, I'm not embarrassed about it, but I wasn't going to be like, next time I'm going to be so upfront about it. I'll just be like, my legs are hurting. I'm not coming in. Because then at least everyone knows what the fuck's going on. Because I just didn't say anything.
Yeah,
I kind of ghosted everybody.
Yeah, like
for 2 days.
We had drill night yesterday, and then we had MMA before. So I was like, "Where's he at?"
I was ducking the MMA and I was ducking the no gi. Clearly, I missed both classes for the month, and that's it for me.
Yeah, we had a solid MMA class too.
I would have been fun. I'm kind of bummed. Those were the 2 days my legs decided. What I should have done is not went Monday or Tuesday, and I would have been gold, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty solid.
They were good Monday and Tuesday classes.
Yeah.
I got a cool question for you, and I figured this is going to be. I'm going to call this my high thought question of the episode, since everything we're talking about is somewhat related to cannabis. If you could train with any historical figure known for their tactical prowess, their bounty hunting skills, or their martial arts expertise, who would it be, and what would you hope to learn from them?
I don't know. It's a hard one.
Or you could just answer part of it. Do you have like a dream, like, I don't know, you know, some people are like, I love Bruce Lee, or I love Chuck Norris, or Robert Drysdale, or
yeah, I mean,
or you know, Mickey Rourke before he did The Wrestler.
Oh man, I mean, any of the old school Gracies,
like Henzo. Or that's not even that old school, huh?
Yeah, he's really good. Henzo, I've always been a big fan of his. I mean,
you talking like maybe Carlos, like OG?
Yeah, it'd be cool. Carlos. I mean, even Hoist Gracie would be like, if I just had one-on-one instruction, that's who I would want to learn from. Is like the really old school Gracie guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you know what you would try and learn from them though? Is there like a specific thing you'd want to ask or try and gain, whether it was mental or physical, or?
Yeah, for me, like growing up watching the like old school UFC and the tough man competitions, like Gracies were like my dream. Like I was a fan, like, so I would want to learn like just like the old school traditional self-defense from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like how everything came about. And I get like there's so much history between like jiu-jitsu and Japanese jiu-jitsu and judo and the Gracies, like, but I would just want to pick their brain, you know?
Yeah.
And just spend that time, at least an hour with them, and just really go over stuff, you know? Even if it's one move.
Yeah.
But how to master that one move.
Right.
Just over and over and over, drill it. And like how I can just do that one move a lot better.
Because I think too, a lot of the insight you wish you had with people that are gone, right?
Yeah.
A lot more of it is, I think, what their mindset was more than their physical thing. Because I feel like you can copy things, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to like mentality and like outlook on things and your how you are cool under a situation, I feel like that's way more interesting to hear and hear how they got there, because you can't just train that. You can't just learn that right away. Like a move you can get down in a few hours maybe if you really work at it, right?
Yeah.
But like intellect, understanding like all the shit they went through when they were younger to harden them as individuals to not be scared of shit that everyday people in a metropolitan area up in the United States would have no understanding of what that is, right? So I feel like that would be so cool to see and hear how they talk.
Yeah.
And how they feel about things without someone like switching their words up. And which, by the way, hopefully there would be some kind of magical Google Translate for us, because I don't speak Portuguese. So I'd still be putting trust in some tech here, but maybe we need to learn some Portuguese, dude. Yeah, it might be something for the next episode. No, I thought that was an interesting question. I was like, you have a lot of backgrounds, and what would be an interesting little toilet thought? Because I feel like that's kind of a toilet thought.
Yeah.
Go and take a shit, and you're like, hey, you know what? Who is the guy I would look up to?
No, it definitely is, dude. But
eat more vegetables.
I mean, I think those guys are just like, they're just like, I don't know, man. Just watching them, the old school like UFCs when they first came out, them, and even like Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell was like really good. Just like there's a lot of old school fighters that paved the way for a lot of fighters.
The thing I like about Chuck Liddell, too, the Iceman, is he was really, I don't know how to say it, non-traditional.
Yeah.
because he was very more violent than he was beautiful. Like he wasn't elegant, but he just the way he would hammer his fist down like a fucking sledgehammer over his
Just
head.
knock people out with it.
I don't know if there's anything to block that
Yeah.
besides movement and luck knowing where that fucking thing's going to land because it's like a catapult.
Yeah.
I watched this video of him now, and he's got this big old gut, and he's still got the legs. He's still got his skinny little muscular legs, you know? But he's got this cupcake body. No offense, Chuck. I know you'll beat the shit out of me. No, he always had the buff gut. So I watched a video of him kick a guy in the leg. But he also just showed how to do his hammer fist.
Yeah.
And he broke it down, and it was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like throwing an elbow almost.
Yeah.
The way he kind of does it, but his hand's extended. It's fucking nuts.
I would also like to learn from like Rampage Jackson.
Yeah.
I like Rampage. He was really good. Like he was never like I've never felt like he was like 100% jiu-jitsu guy, but he was a striker. And he would stand there and he would fight. Like he fought the best of the best, dude. Like I like Rampage.
That
Jackson.
era was really good. That was a really good
so many
fucking
good
era,
fights back
especially for heavyweights.
Yeah, especially when Pride was out.
Yeah.
Pride. I
Yeah.
mean, there was Mark the Hammer Coleman. There was
John Jones. That was John Jones' peak, maybe, right?
No, I
Peak
don't think John Jones fought in Pride.
No. I meant like the era Rampage was in, though.
Oh yeah.
Like
Rampage.
Daniel
No.
Cormier.
So
Or he was a little before them, right?
So Rampage fought way before John Jones.
He was like the
came out
gen
UFC.
before them.
Yeah, he was like
He was like Chael's, maybe like Chael, or am I
was
really
like
mixing
fighting when
timelines?
Henzo and them were fighting in Pride.
Oh shit!
Like there was Nick Diaz fighting in Pride, Henzo fighting in Pride.
That was like
Fedor.
that was like early 2000s, though,
Yeah,
right?
Fedor was fighting in Pride. There was a lot of good fighters back then.
Was Orlovsky in Pride? He was.
Orlovsky was in
right?
Pride.
He was
That's
cool.
what a lot of people like with Nick Diaz. A lot of people don't realize that he's fought for so long.
Yeah,
That guy's been
and not
fighting
in
fucking-
American sports either.
Yeah,
like
he's
you
been
said.
fighting since he was young. Fighting since he was real young. So, yeah. How about you, man? If you had a chance to train with somebody?
God, man, that's a good question. You know what? I don't know. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I really didn't think about it. Because then there's, I don't know if you can hear this, but there's a landscaper going right now, and
You want to pause it? Come back.
no, I think we'll be
Okay.
okay. Because the microphone's good.
Yeah.
We're just gonna talk loud probably for a little bit, but it's not gonna pick any of that up. You know what I forgot to mention that I did do last week, since I don't have an answer for that question. I did go to a comedy show.
Oh,
in
I
Oakland.
saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I saw you post it.
went and saw Shane Gillis.
Oh, dude, he's fucking awesome.
I went with Dylan, and it was cool. We went to his work, an undisclosed location. And,
Dylan from Jiu-Jitsu?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and no, we got a ride to and from the show, so that was fun. And we didn't have to find parking down there, so that was
Oh,
nice. But
sweet.
dude, it was funny. There were so many like first responders there because on the way to the second show, because we went to the late show,
Yeah.
which was at 9:30, and the first show's at 7. So I was like, let's go to the late show. They're going to be way more sloshed. He's going to be way more sloshed. You know, it's going to be more loose. Everyone's going to have more fun. So we agreed. Plus we can pregame. So we do that. But on the way in, because, you know, he's a medic. And
Yeah.
I'm with all his medic buddies. So on the way in, we run into 2 or 3 firefighters and Oakland PD. Guys they all knew. They were off the clock. And I went, and it was funny because we were just talking to everybody. And, of course, they're all exchanging fucking nicotine pouches.
Oh, shit.
But, like, it made me laugh because I'm like, I looked at Dylan and I'm all, dude, if all the first responders are at these 2 shows, who the fuck's working right now? Like, the city of Oakland, first of all, doesn't, I mean, you know, hey, they cut costs, so maybe they won't notice. But like, damn, I was like, this is funny, dude. And even one of the comedians made a joke about cops. He was like, how many cops are in here? And there was a good amount of noise, but I'm like, there are probably more that just didn't say anything. So I'm like, yeah, there was a lot of, it was a good night. It was a good
Shane
turnout.
Gillis is funny. They actually,
Hella funny.
didn't they, like somehow like try to blacklist him where he wasn't able to like.
Yeah, so his whole origin story kind of is, I mean, a lot of people knew him before this too, but, you know, he couldn't get the SNL gig because of a joke he made on a podcast 5 or 6 years before that, which was nuts. So someone hunted him down and tried to screw him over. Well, it ended up backfiring because he didn't work for NBC, he didn't work for SNL, and he ended up making a name for himself, blowing up his own brand, becoming huge on his own, and now he's making way more money than he would have if he stuck with SNL. So in a weird way, kind of like what we always talk about, your journey leads you on this fucked up path that you don't get originally or in time. But at the end, when you start making progress, start getting to these points in your life, you're like, holy shit, I was meant to be on this path, right? So, I mean, the thing is on his own, he's doing the skits that he wouldn't be able to do on a network on his own on YouTube. So he has creative control of his product. He doesn't have to worry about all these corporate people getting involved and telling him, hey, you can't say this, you can't say that, you got to change this. And that takes all the funny out of jokes. Comedians can't work like that. So I think he really helped himself by being who he is. He's true. He never apologized for anything because he didn't do anything wrong. You know, comedy's meant to be making fun of things. And if people start taking jokes serious like scripture, then we got bigger problems than people think.
Yeah.
And if we can't decipher between satire and reality, I think people are a lot dumber than we think they are as well. So anyway, that's kind of the spiel with him. But he ended up hosting SNL, I think, about a month and a half ago, and that was hilarious. So the guy that couldn't get a job 3 years later gets to host the show he wasn't allowed to work for. So that goes to kind of show you how stupid America is with their media and their entertainment, and the people that run this shit don't really know what they're talking about because he's huge.
Yeah, he's fucking hilarious.
They would have made so much money off of him. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't. So yeah, that's what we did. We had a great time. Another comedian, Brian Moses, opened for him. He was hilarious.
Where was it, at the Improv?
This was at the Paramount in Oakland.
Oh, Paramount. Okay.
Really nice theater.
Never been there.
I think it's on Broadway.
Did you hear about Oakland? They deployed like 150 CHP officers to help control the city.
Yeah, I heard that, but aren't they cutting? Isn't the whole problem with the funding is because they cut Oakland PD officers just are either transferring or they're just not signing up, right?
Yeah. Well, I think they're not signing up. But here's the thing, and I want to. So with Oakland, like I worked cases out there. With Oakland, if they do not get control of Oakland, soon, I mean the city is ran by crime. Like it's overran by crime, like car break-ins, the carjacking, the murder rates, the drugs, the prostitution, the homeless. If the gangs are running it out there, so they need to step in and really put their foot down because the officers out there, they need that backing. They need whatever funding they can get from the state to help fight this crime, because you have even me working out there, the times I did have cases out there, you have citizens out there who don't want to deal with the fucking crime. They're just like, I'm done with it, but they can't report it because they're afraid of retaliation.
Right, because they live next door to this dickhead.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there was times where I was out there on cases, and there'd be like one case. There was a girl, her car got shot up at, and I don't know if they were after her son or her boy, but she had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
But her whole car was shot up. She was like a 56-year-old woman. And she could barely speak any type of English, and her car was just obliterated with bullets, man. Like, they're fed up with it.
Yeah, it's like you live in El Salvador or something.
Yeah, I mean, like you do not feel safe anywhere you go in those areas, like especially the bad areas. Like they need to step in and really whatever they got to do, they just got to fix it. Like it's getting to the point where it's going to start pouring over to other cities. It already is spilling over, and not just there, but Stockton also. They got to start fixing these areas up because the crime is escalating to a point where they're going to have no control over it. There's only so much the police can do.
Yeah.
And if they don't have the proper funding, the proper training, the proper getting the police force funded and hired on, it's going to be hard, man.
Well, and what's funny too is to offer some perspective on our people. I mean, I think a lot of people that follow this podcast feel a certain type of way about special. I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say special forces, but people that protect our communities. So, but I still feel like there's naysayers. There's people that feel the other way about it, and that's fine too. But I feel like here's my take on it too: is like everything you said has to happen. The people that had issues with the police before, man, they're going to have to really kind of hold their tongue because guess what? when you let things get worse, they're going to have to crack down even harder on shit to make up for that, to get things back to a point where you could walk down the street at 7 o'clock at night and not feel like you're going to get robbed.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, dude, that's also going to take time. That's going to take, you're going to break some eggs, dude. So it's just kind of funny that people like think that when you create a mess, you don't have to, it doesn't, how do you clean it up? Well, if you make a fucking giant mess in your house, you can't just clean it up in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. You're probably going to have to swap, you have to go through it once, sweep it, then mop it, and then you have to mop it again in 3 days. So it's like, it's not fun. It's not going to be fun. And people think, oh, we'll defund all this because, it's corrupt. I understand that logic. But the problem is then you're defunding the people that aren't. And then what do? Now you need the funding. Now how are you going to get it? You're going to get it the same way you cut the funding. So they're just going to charge our taxes more. But I don't mind having our tax dollars go towards the community. That's what they're meant to go towards. That's fine. It's just, I hope people are learning in this state that there needs to be like reform, there needs to be like education and change, but you can't just eliminate things and think that you can do this on your own, because let me tell you, even as people that train, like, we need the police, man.
Yeah, for sure.
If someone robs my house, I got to call somebody. I don't have enough friends that are, one, available, and two, willing to fucking risk their neck to go figure out why this dickhead stole all my shit. So who am I going to call? I don't have that. Most people don't have that. So I feel like it is nice to have a fucking number where you can call and be like, hey, this is fucked up. But then I also get all those people, too, that have bad run-ins with the police, and I understand that.
Well, here's a funny thing, too. Like, as even being a bounty hunter, we'd go out to houses to do our searches for somebody. And the first thing most of these people would do is that they would call the police on us. So you're this big, bad criminal, but you're calling the police on us because, we're going to come in and try to arrest your boyfriend or girlfriend or son or whatever it is. And they would call the police on us. And then the police already knew we were out there because we put ourselves out. So they knew what we were doing. But that's the thing. Like, eventually you're going to need the police at some point. Even if you're a victim of being shot, you're going to need the police. You're going to need 911. They're going to, you're going to need ambulance there. So they're going to have to do their investigation. So at some point, you're going to need the police. And that's it.
Perfect timing, by the way. You have no idea where my outline's going or what I have.
No, I don't.
But you're tying in perfectly with a subject that I have on here. Eric, good job. I actually was watching a video while I was getting high at night one night. Like every night. I get stuck in a rabbit hole on YouTube, and I'll just watch these shorts. And it's a lot of it's police and stuff now, but I watched this really cool one. There was this ATF agent, and I believe it was in Ohio. I'll tag the video on the when we post this as well, so people can check it out. But there's an ATF agent arrested by Ohio police. Now, obviously, most of the time, these ATF guys aren't going to be rocking their vests and gear because they're going to need to come up and be able to get to your door at least before you run away.
Yeah.
So this guy's knocking on the door, and he's trying to seize an illegal firearm. The fucking people inside were genius. What do?
Call the police.
They called the police, and they said there's a man outside impersonating a police officer.
Yep.
So Ohio PD is on high alert now. They got their assholes tight, and they're showing up, guns drawn at this motherfucker and saying, get on the ground right now. He's got his fucking paperwork in one hand next to the door, and he's got nothing on him.
Yeah.
But to them, I understand.
Yeah.
You still don't know. He could have something in his pocket. You don't know. And that's the main thing is, like, there's protocol with dealing with confrontation when you're a police officer and when you're dealing with police. Even with, as a bounty hunter, I'm sure you had to deal with that. But, dude, it was fucked up because he was like, no, I'm ATF. Like, and they're like, we got a call saying there's a person out here impersonating a police officer. And the dude's laughing. He's all, well, of course she's going to fucking say that. She doesn't want to give up her shit and she doesn't want to get in trouble. And the cops are like not believing him at all. And they're like, get on the fucking ground. So finally he gets on the ground. They're like, put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind. He's like, check my wallet. He keeps saying, check my wallet, my ID. Check my wallet, my ID. There's two sides of this. People are like, he should have just identified himself and complied. Sure.
Yeah.
That's true. He should have been a little more compliant, and they probably would have eased them a little bit more. But I think he was hoping they would have clicked with them, like, hey, check my shit. I got my badge. I got my identification. You'll know what I'm talking about. Dude, they check his shit, and they still tase him. So it's just, I watch these videos, and unfortunately, I watch a lot of videos that are cool because it's not the same person, but there's pro police stuff and there's police looking stupid. I think both are important because both are realistic. Like, there's people that do good things, there's people who do bad things. We need to learn from all of it, right? We need to be empowered by the good shit, or we need to learn from the mistakes. So I enjoy watching it because I think it keeps us all grounded. Anyway, I think both sides were wrong on this. Mostly the cops. The cops should have. I think all would have been forgiven if he would have just seen the ID, let the guy go. Cool. I also think though the dude should have been a little more compliant and less stiff about surrendering his ID or just complying, because the problem is like he understands that he's a higher government agency, which is higher than the police. Yeah. The problem is when you're on the street, no one's really higher than the police, because if the police are going to respect another person that's higher than them, anyone like me or yourself could say we're FBI and they could just leave us the fuck alone. That makes zero sense. So, like, I understand from the police perspective where they got to be like, look, we got to make sure you're legit, dude. Yeah. Like, we can't just take your fucking word for it. People do this shit all the time. But at the same time, I'm like, man. So anyway, long story short, this fucking guy he's suing the Ohio Police Department. I don't know which police department per se, but yeah, it's in the great state of Ohio, which, you know, they've had a lot of success with crime and football. College football is great there.
How so much did you feel when they tased them? Did it piss you off, or how did it make you feel? What do you think? How do you think it could have been better handled?
He was no threat. There was absolutely no reason. He was already begging them to not do it. So to me, I don't know what the logic is with the police officer. I don't know how you're trained. My assumption is that it is either to subdue them or to put them in a space where they're not actively trying to kill you.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't doing either of those, so I think it was unnecessary. Once again, I'm not there though. Maybe they thought he was crazy. People lie about shit all the time. I don't know, but they should have checked his ID. I mean, there were 3 cops on him. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Does it take 3 cops to take down a 180-pound man? No. Yeah. It shouldn't. So once again, that's training, like what we were talking about last week.
But was he like fighting them or resisting?
Not really.
Okay.
And they had his hands behind his back. He was chest down on the concrete. It was just very odd. It was like, it's not a good look for the police. Either way.
You think it could have been resolved if he actually told dispatch, like, I'm going to be out at this house?
So I've seen videos where they've done that, and he says, call your captain because a lot of the times when they're undercovers, dude, there was this other video. It's funny you bring that up, because there was this other video I watched where this guy was sitting, he was trying to find dirty cops. So he texted this cop to meet him in a certain place. The cop met him there, and the cop was creeped out. He's like, why are you fucking hitting me up? Why are we meeting up here? I need your credentials. He's like, hey, I can't give those to you.
Yeah.
And he basically, after about 20 minutes of back and forth of him not complying, he admitted, I'm working an operation. I can't give you that information. So he's all, fine, I'll run your plates. He said, go ahead. He says, this isn't an FBI car. This is a something electric car. And the guy looked at him and said, yeah, it's a fucking work car. Dude, how stupid is that cop? Because if you had a fucking gun and you were able to scan a license plate and it said FBI on it, how good is that undercover vehicle?
Yeah, not too good.
They're going to be pretty obvious it's a cop car, right? So it's just like, of course it's not going to come up as that. It's a general vague company that if you look and you call your captain on, so he calls his captain and he's like, hey, guy checks out, he's legit. They still detained him for another 2 hours for another like hour in the back of a squad car with the windows up.
Oh,
dude! So I've seen some really interesting videos, man. And
is that because he was investigating the police department? Was it that one?
Well, he was FBI investigating corrupt cops, and then they were keeping him in the back seat.
I think I seen that video.
And I'm just like,
it was like he had to go.
Once again, like, even though you guys aren't doing anything wrong, technically, not a good look, and it just hurts like your image publicly. Like,
yeah,
people are releasing chest cams and all this shit more and more, and I believe nowadays, I don't even think you need warrants to get that stuff, because I think it's public domain.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works.
Because you know how 911 calls are public domain.
Yeah.
You can reach out to a dispatcher or whoever catalogs this shit, tell them the date and all this shit that you need it for. And I don't even know if you need credentials to get that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because people use it for their podcasts, for crime podcasts. they're not connected with the crime itself. They don't have anything to do with it, but they're producing a show with all the 911 calls, and I'm like, hey, that's public information. So I wonder if chest cams are too.
Yeah.
It's probably not easy to get that, though. I'm sure it might be a challenge with the police department. I don't want to release that, but
these YouTube channels have to be up to date, right? They're just kind of like looking for the next
and I think
episode to put on.
What I'm saying, these are negative instances, right? I've seen some positive ones where they're dealing with crazy people, or they're dealing with people that are frauds. And once again, I think it's a good thing. I think it's just showcasing reality.
Yeah.
Like, there's good and bad. And, dude, any job you've worked, even when you did bounty hunting, there was probably one bad egg in that group. Maybe that wasn't corrupt, but one guy that maybe wasn't quite as good as everyone else. And everyone was just kind of like, I don't want that guy having my six, like there's at least one guy in every group that's like that, right? So it's like, unless you're for like a SEAL team, then you better hope everyone's dialed down. But like,
yeah, it's a little bit different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty much, there's always a fucking cracked egg in a fucking basket, so fortunately.
Well, I don't really know. I mean, it's.
But it's just a numbers game. There's dumbasses everywhere. That's all I'm saying. So now I guess we'll shift back. That was good though. That was good. We could shift into cannabis and sports. I wanted to focus on certain sports because it's pretty much just. I'm like, yeah, let's just focus. Originally, I looked up UFC, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's do U.S. sports. Now, can you guess which U.S. sports thing, without looking at my notes, but I don't think you were,
well, you see
passed it first?
Probably had to be any type of sports, like Olympics type of.
No. So I'll make it easier. I'll give you the four. I'm doing the big four.
Okay.
You got NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. NHL counts because it's Canada and US, but even though it's mostly US. But who do you think was the most lenient on cannabis first for the athletes?
NBA.
NBA?
Or wait, NFL.
NFL. Final answer?
No, wait. Let me think. Give me again.
I'm giving you one more chance.
Yeah, let's go, guys. Help me out here.
2 out of 4. Just try the other 2.
I'm not big on weed, so
No. I know, but just you don't. It doesn't have to do with weed.
All right.
It's literally just which one you think? So you went with NFL.
This is for marijuana only.
Yeah.
Okay. NFL, NHL, NBA,
and MLB, which is baseball. Who do you think was the first to kind of start changing for the athletes to be able to do it?
I feel like NBA, man.
NBA, and that's not a bad guess. They're not the first.
Okay.
But hey, not a bad guess because I would have went that route too. NHL actually in 2016.
Oh.
Wow, really pre-COVID, pre-doomsday, and they were like, "Look, we're one of the most physical sports out there. Why the fuck are we caring that much? Thank you." Thank you, NHL, for caring about your players that kill themselves to make money for you. MLB was next in 2019. So still pre-COVID. Not bad. Not a bad look. Baseball's had a lot of bad PR, but I guess you could say the cannabis thing has been helping them a little bit. I also think it matters how much these nonprofits pull in. I don't know if the NHL is quite as big as the MLB for merchandising and all that. I could be speaking out of turn here. No disrespect to the hockey guys, because I love hockey. I'm just not as well versed in the NHL. But I know that the baseball doesn't even have a salary cap, and they just make a shit ton of money. So I think they're the highest paid sport athletes, or highest paid in general sports.
Yeah.
They're in 2019. Basically, NHL and MLB, they treat it like alcohol. If you test positive, it's fine. It just can't be like you're currently high.
Yeah.
Right?
Or playing the game high.
Right. Because then it would be a liability, I guess, somehow. NBA did it in 2020, so they kind of followed suit pretty quick. Now, the NFL does not treat it like alcohol. The NFL jumped on it in 2021, but what they do is they don't test you in the off season. So during the regular season, which is still 17 weeks, if you play just a regular season, if you do playoffs, it would be closer to like 22. So 17 to 22 weeks where you can't smoke. But that's also probably the time when they need it because they're taking the most beatings in the regular season. And one reason people take cannabis is recovery, is for inflammation. A lot of people say, oh, it's psychoactive, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to get stoned. I'm like, look, I think a lot of people would rather be a little stoned and giggly and not hurt than feel like a bag of shit
or take medicine
and be straight edge on it. But hey, look, different strokes, different folks.
Or take painkillers.
Yeah, and the problem with painkillers is that kills your organs. All the shit we used to take, you know.
Yeah, I mean, recently the doctor gave me muscle relaxers because I had injury. And I took one. And after like that feeling of like just being super like relaxed and maybe like just not really, I don't know, I really don't take muscle painkillers. That's just not my thing. I tried it, took one painkiller, a muscle relaxer, and then the next day I was like, I'm not taking that shit again.
Yeah.
Like that shit's going to go through my organs. It's going to kill my liver, kidneys, because I could easily see how people can become addicted to that shit.
Well, dude, it's so easy to pop a pill.
Yeah. I mean, I've had so many injuries. Like, it's just, I feel like it's just painkiller all the time. And it's like, fuck, dude, fuck that. Or ibuprofen. Mm-hmm. Or like, it's just pills.
Right.
It's like, fuck, dude. Like, fuck the pills, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I feel at that point. Like, just fuck those pills. Because at the end of the day, like, addiction runs in my family.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, if I take these pills, could I get hooked to it, you know? I'd rather just try to fight through the pain through any type of physical rehabilitation, like seeing a physical therapist, a massage therapist, or seeing a chiropractor,
right?
Than going to get pills. Yeah,
the more holistic approach.
Yeah, or even like, I mean, I'm not like a huge weed smoker or into it, so I mean CBD, even rubbing CBD on my body, I feel like that's helped a lot with the inflammation. Like I order CBD
like the
cream.
balm salves.
Yeah, balm from like, I don't know how real it is, but it's from Amazon. But, you know, I use that or a lot of like Tiger Balm, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, CBD is really good. You just want to be careful too, because keep in mind, a lot of people don't understand that CBD is hemp, and hemp products have been around forever. So sometimes it'll be labeled CBD just so you pay more.
Oh, okay.
So it's good to know what is what and to just not be screwed over. And there's a lot of people out there trying to sell snake oil. But just do your research, people. You know, it's not like, you know, if you're going to start doing heroin, do your research on a good opium plant.
Well, now they have CBD drops, right?
Yeah.
So if you take CBD drops or if you take CBD oil, will you test positive in a drug test?
No, because they're testing specifically for THC, and THC and CBD are separate chemicals. But I will say this. As good as you felt with that balm with CBD, man, get some THC balm. Woo! Because let me tell you, you don't get the head change, but you get that nice. It's a lot more like massagey.
Yeah.
Like tension release. At least for me, but maybe that's because I indulge in the THC. So when I go to CBD, I feel like it's like drinking decaf.
Okay.
I don't notice it, but maybe it's because I have a threshold, you know, that's a little different than someone who doesn't smoke or partake.
So which one would you say would be more addictive for you? Do you think marijuana is addictive?
Yeah, yes and no. I think anything can be addictive because it's based on your mentality, right? It's based on how you feel and how you treat it. You could argue the way I treat it is addictive, right? Every day I smoke. Maybe you could say I'm addicted. But the thing is I could also take time off of it and not get sweats and not wake up in the middle of the night, shake. You know, I feel like if you stop drinking like that, or you stop doing a hardcore drug, I mean, heroin or something, you could die if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Your body goes through those withdrawals so crazy that it literally tricks your body into thinking you need it. Like, there's nothing in our body that's going to trick us to thinking we need weed to the point where it's going to kill us.
So what's the downfall of smoking every single day? Like, what's the...
Well, I think just like anything. Like,
effect?
I think that's why you need to find something that works for you. If people don't smoke, I think it's important to stick to your virtues. Like, there's other ways to do it. Like you mentioned, there's edibles. Edibles might be kind of crazy. Something I thought was cool is they have tinctures, which it looks like it's in a syringe. It's not like a syringe you would put in your blood. It's like something you squeeze on like a piece of bread. It just basically allows you to portion something out, kind of like honey. Mm-hmm. I think that's a little better because I think I think people's problem with edibles is they don't have control, right? So they're putting a lot of faith in this little piece of candy that might hit them in a certain way. The good thing about the syringe, like I'm talking about, is you can really, it's just the THC. It's not sugar. It's not all this other shit. So you can just be like, look, I'm going to have like a piece of toast with peanut butter, and I'm just going to put like a dollop on there. And that's going to get me where I need to go. And I'm not going to feel like I want to climb on the moon or jump out the window. This is just enough to keep me like, my muscles don't hurt. I can still function. I think education is important because some people will say there's two types of weed, right? There's indica and then there's sativa. The indica is like the sleepy time stuff. The sativa is like the daytime, kind of perks you up.
So has this the sativa indica been around since like the 90s?
Oh, dude, sativa is the original strain of cannabis, and it's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Indica.
Just so you guys know, I'm not a huge weed smoker. I'm not. It's never been my thing, but that's why I have 1,000 questions.
No, I like answering them. Yeah. So for forever.
Okay.
I don't know if they knew per se maybe what the strains are, because I think they've gotten very obsessed with names now.
Okay.
Like Bubba Kush 64. Sure. Whatever. You know what I mean? Nowadays, the names almost don't mean anything.
What's Bubba Kush 64 mean?
So I've learned through names is originally the names were named, a lot of names for weed back in the day were named after the people that grew the stuff.
Okay.
Or it was they idolized someone. Like you'd have Bruce Lee, and that's because they like Bruce Lee. It has nothing to do with genetics. Sometimes they try and name them like affiliated with the way they taste. So like that's why you'll get these candy names like right, there's Runts. Runts was blowing up big in 2019. This is when I was working in Oakland for the dispensary. Everyone wanted Runts. All the rappers were smoking it. It was just, and Runts is the Wonka candy. They're kind of like little nerds, right? Those little sweet candies. And then there's, like people have like apple, like sour apple, or like blueberry kush, stuff like that. So I think it's all like, it's gotten to the point now where you kind of don't know what things are.
So when would you rather be high, like after like a good jiu-jitsu class and just after you rolled and just relax at home, or would you rather just be high all day?
So if I'm on vacation, being high all day is great, right? But the problem is like you're going to hit that midday where you're just like, I got to take a nap.
Yeah.
Because even me, I'm like, this is a lot. But personally, I like having your time. I think that's what separates it from an addiction is being like, okay, it's 8:00. The kids are down. The wife's doing her thing. I'm going to go out and do my thing for an hour, get my head right. Yeah. See, that's when I don't think it's an addiction. Because an addiction is something where it's like, it's lunchtime at work. You're hitting it. Oh, it's breakfast. You're hitting it. I think when there's no like arranged point to your day where you're doing it, I think that's when it's kind of becoming an addiction more than a routine. Because I think you could say there's a fine line between a routine and an addiction. But I think a routine is like, you have your pre-workout. That's a routine.
Yeah.
You have your post-workout. That's a routine. So I feel like for me, I like doing it after because I think as I've gotten older, I think it's more fun to try and tackle these obstacles and these mental challenges sober and do my best so I can keep growing and then keep my nighttime routine where it's kind of like a treat.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I got through jiu-jitsu. I got through my day. I got all this shit done. And now I can just relax and bullshit.
Yeah.
Great.
So like for me, I have a coffee addiction. And then but it got to the point where coffee doesn't really do it for me now. Like, so it's like, okay, it's just because I'm so busy with work. I'm a busy person, like all day. Right. And then I got training and shit. So coffee, like Red Bulls are my thing. And I've had to learn to like kind of calm down on them because it's not really healthy for you.
Right.
Is there a point where marijuana just becomes unhealthy for you, or you could become like, I've heard like people becoming schizophrenic off smoking too much, or the chemicals
so
they're
I don't
putting
know
into it
anyone
now
personally that's become that way. I'm not saying it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I don't like to speak in absolutes, but I've met people that have had the paranoia thing where it's weed's too strong, but all the people that I've noticed that have that issue were OGs that grew up in the 90s. So I feel like it's more that the weed is so strong now genetically, they've got this shit dialed in that it's just way more potent. So I think that's a lot of that.
So
But then I do think there's some people that do have adverse reactions to stuff. I mean, sure. I think chemically there's people I know that I've told them, it's like, hey, you should try this, give it a shot. And they're like, no, I can't. I'll freak out for like 12 hours. I'm like, okay, well, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because if anything makes you feel that way, I would never do it. Like, you couldn't put a gun to my head and make me do something that I knew was going to make me feel like shit. So I always tell them, like, well, then it's not for you.
Yeah.
But hopefully you're not going to be the guy that's also hitting benzos all the time and fucking trying to find other ways that do work.
Yeah.
But it's just, the problem is the thing I like about weed is it's an upfront substance. And what I mean by that is, what you see is what you get. As soon as you get high, that's how you feel. You're going to feel good or you're going to feel bad, depending on the person, right? But that's how you feel. With pills, it's like, it makes you think you feel good, and then underlying under the surface, it's fucking hitting your organs, hitting your kidneys, fucking you up, and you're not even thinking about it because you're numb. But that doesn't mean the damage isn't happening. So to me, it's like, even in real life, I'm like, I like dealing with people that are up front. I like dealing with people that what you see is what you get. Pills are like that sneaky son of a bitch that's wearing an overcoat. Like, you don't know what's underneath that thing. That's the way I look at it. And with weed, it's like, that's a smelly hippie. Like, he is. That's what you're getting. So you either invite him inside and stick up the house, or you just say, stay out there, But, I feel like it's a more honest thing. Like, you can say, I don't want to do it for these reasons, but how many people can say that about pills? They don't even know what's wrong with pills.
Yeah. So, like, how would you feel if they started putting, like, there's people out there who experiment with different drugs, but how would you feel if they started putting, like, fentanyl in your marijuana? What would you do if that was like
Well, I would have to, like, luckily I got a plug, and I'd call him up and have a nice conversation with him. But I think that's the scary thing, huh?
Would you stop smoking?
No, potentially. But I would shift gears, because there's always going to be a safe option for this, because at the end of the day, weed is a money grab, right? Especially in this state, California. But there are a lot of honest, good farmer people out there still that are really in this for the real point, which is holistic value. You know, sure, you get high, you feel good, dude, but you're not aggro. You're not like, you don't hate the world. And a lot of the times I find that when I go out and unwind and smoke, shit that I'd be festering about that is trivial, even if it's a fight with the wife or something, I would spend maybe another 5 or 6 hours being mad, just festering, hiding off somewhere. But when I go out and take 10 minutes, smoke weed, it gives me clarity. And I come inside and I'll be like, hey, look, I fucked up too. Like, and we can move on quicker. So to me, I'm like, alcohol doesn't do that for me.
Alcohol puts you in a rage.
Alcohol would tell you you're right and they're wrong. I mean, alcohol is always in your corner. But the problem is once you get past that turning point, they're like, you're on your own. Yeah. So, and don't get me wrong, I like my booze too, but it's a cruel mistress.
Yeah, I'm a whiskey person.
But once again, I'm not on my soapbox to say pro weed or anything.
I like rum too, like this one, but
no, to answer your question, dude, I think luckily, since it's a different type, since it's not a powder, I think it's easier to understand or see what's on your weed, but people could easily take. But with as expensive as fentanyl is, I don't see why people would want to dope up weed, because my understanding is with the fentanyl crisis with cocaine was it wasn't that people were doping up the cocaine, because fentanyl's not cheap from my understanding either. It was that the supplier was cutting the shit on the same fucking thing, and the things were mixing together. I don't know how true that is,
dude.
But that's what I heard.
Yeah, I don't want to go off topic,
but I think that's why it's important to know your sources, where they grow, how they grow, and to add on to something. And to add on to that, I recently just saw an article that said pesticides were found in state-approved cannabis clubs in California. That's federally regulated. That's state regulated, and there were pesticides in it. That is unacceptable, because I can tell you, as someone who worked at a club, every time you get a delivery, you have paperwork that shows you genetic information. It shows you tests, hard metal tests. They got to make sure there's no heavy metals in this shit, because when people are consuming it, heavy metals are cancerous. They'll kill you. So you can't have this shit in there. So
I mean, I grew up near the fields, you know, like near strawberry fields where I grew up at, and like they were spraying pesticides all the time. I mean, even the field workers back then were getting affected by the pesticides. I mean, that shit was spraying all over our strawberries back then. Like, like people didn't even realize.
But how do you wash your weed? So like it's not like an apple, like where they tell you, hey, just wash your fruit, wash your produce. Well, how do you wash?
But by
your
then
weed?
it's already sucked into the.
But that's what I mean. So that's how you know it's bullshit, because that means they cut corners. Whoever that farmer was, they just didn't give a fuck. Yeah. They said, spray the field, fuck it. Or what you said happened. But either way, when they're testing this shit, they should have noticed that.
Yeah, I mean,
like
look,
you're
up
telling
in the
me your
90s,
fucking tests don't test
so
for pesticides?
Yeah.
So
I
think
like the other day, I was reading a package of gum, and they like put plastic in some gums. Like, and like I was reading a package that says does not contain plastic.
Well, because I think originally gum was plastic.
So
I mean, well,
crazy.
technically gum is from a tree, right? It's like underneath the bark or something.
Just whatever they're putting in it.
But that's the natural stuff. But I don't even know. Chewing gum's made out of like, it's probably rubber, dude. What the fuck is that shit? I don't know that would answer your question. I mean, I would potentially probably stop, because what are you going to do? Try and kill yourself? Like, I'm not. I don't.
Well, here's the thing. That's why I was watching a podcast, and this guy was 100% right. If the cartels ever wanted to wage war against the U.S., the number one thing that they would do is all they have to do is destroy their pipelines by just lacing it with fentanyl, all their drugs that's coming over to the States.
But here's my issue.
Fentanyl,
well,
everybody would just drop dead. Like, not everybody.
Yeah, but who's buying
drug addict.
Here's my problem with that. What drug dealer wants to wipe out a market of profit? You know how much money the cartels make off drugs in the United States? How much illegal drugs come from Mexico? They're sold on the street here.
Yeah, but this podcast guy was just saying, if they ever wanted, if we think if it's
I mean, yeah,
it would be a pandemic, an epidemic, pandemic. It would be.
But that's like with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they could launch nukes on every country too. I mean, there's always doomsday,
but to show
crazy
their power, the type of power they have.
But once again, like, what good does it do to wipe out a whole country of people that would be buying your drugs off you?
I mean, we're talking about not just that, teenagers.
But they're buying, but they're paying for it too.
Yeah,
it's illegal, but that
we
doesn't
would
mean
have
it's not
all
happening.
these people just dropping.
But then who's buying your weed now? Who's buying your coke? That's why I don't believe it, because the cartels care more about money than anything, right? Money and power, right?
Well, I think it's if you keep fucking with them.
Right, but the people that are fucking with them aren't me and you. It's the government.
But it's also showing here's an example. Right?
Yeah. But I feel like you could probably make that same example with a terrorist attack of some sort on a building or.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing. That's a lot of engineering that would have to go into doping up all those canals.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it was kind of a crazy podcast. I'll send it to you.
It's interesting. It sounds cool.
I'll send it to you.
It sounds like something they would do on Batman. I mean, and here's the thing.
But it made me think. I was like, holy shit, this guy's right.
Yeah, it's possible. You could poison a whole water system, but.
Yeah, I'll send you the podcast.
But like, can you imagine though? If, like, I mean, it's just like saying like, hey, all the people that make you money, we're just gonna kill them all. Like,
yeah.
Then what do you do?
No, but I mean,
just rely on Mexico for money.
But just not with just weed, but a lot of like how easy weed gets into our school systems, like a high school system, junior high school system. Like, even like I read articles of like kids bringing fentanyl and just dying or taking fentanyl.
Yeah.
I know a lady, her son died of an overdose from fentanyl. And it's like, I called my son up and I was like, you better not touch this shit.
Yeah.
Like, no pills, whatever people are fucking giving you. I mean.
Well, that's the scary thing.
It fucking, as a parent, it fucking scared the shit out of me.
Well, that's the scary thing, because when we were growing up, weed was the taboo drug. It was even still taboo for me.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a place to go.
Yeah.
So, this is my logic moving forward. It's going to scare the shit out of you too, and it scares me. But it's like, what's their taboo drug? That, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Something that isn't legal. There's no taboo with something that's legal. If the police don't care that you're doing it, what's the fun in that?
Well, I remember even like mushrooms scared the shit out of me in high school. People were talking about mushrooms.
Too.
Yeah, they are. But I mean, back then in high school, everyone was like doing mushrooms.
But that's what I mean. You took those two big ones off the table, and you could argue they're not big, but still, they're the beginners for a lot of people. What, are kids going to jump to coke now?
Well, back then, kids were fucking like talking about mushrooms. I remember kids in high school were just going out there and finding fucking mushrooms out in the fucking grass and eating that shit, thinking it's their mushrooms, and getting really fucking sick off of it.
Well, that's fucking stupid, because you really could die of it.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, there's no way I'm touching that shit ever in my life.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even trust the kids in high school selling that shit.
I mean, you shouldn't, but now you can trust people. Now they got it dialed down pretty good, Eric. But
I just don't trust.
no, I mean, you shouldn't.
Like
You shouldn't. But I'm just saying, for weed and that now, it's pretty safe. But that's what I mean. It's safe. Kids don't want safe. Dude, when you're a kid and you want to do stuff, you're like, my parents are boring. I want to do stuff that they're not doing. I want to learn my own way. I want to figure out my life, right? And that's that's the fun of being your teenage years is like, you do you, I want to do me. That's totally the attitude.
Dude, going back to high school, I remember like there was kids there would be weed at school and they would put oregano in it. Just to
and you wouldn't even notice.
It would be a little bit of weed and oregano.
A bay leaf?
Yeah, yeah. And it would look like weed, And it'd be like, look at this shit I got. And you're like, oh, that's cool, dude. Like, we're gonna go smoke this. And I was like,
well, like even me, the last episode we did, I told Tiger, I'm like, well, were you smoking that White Widow? And it's because, dude, I remember like hearing
what's White Widow? I don't
White Widow's a strain.
Okay.
And it was like there was only like a few strains that were like hitting the street.
I'm so uneducated.
No,
on marijuana.
no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's not even a cool thing anymore to be versed in it. But it's like, it's just funny because you learn geographically what's popular too. Like New York back in the 90s, they were big in the diesels. And if anyone knows what diesels are, they're the sativas. They're the uppers. Well, New York's kind of the upper anyway. They stay up till what? I think last call in New York is 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 hours in the day where they can't drink alcohol. So New York's a crazy city, but New York was popularized with sativas. I think LA was popular with like the OG Kush.
Yeah.
So that's why I always talk about Kush and OG, and that's like all Dr. Dre and all that, all the West Coast shit back in the day. So it's interesting too when you geographically see too what's popular based on where they grow it. But I also heard back in the 90s and the 70s, like throughout the 60s through like the 90s, New York would get all their weed from like the southern Caribbean or Jamaica and shit. So they were getting all their shit from there. And the Cali guys, we were either getting our shit from Cali or we were getting it from like Asia.
Yeah.
And I think back in the 60s and 70s, everyone was getting their shit from Asia. And that's why they call it Endo, because it's from Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I remember like even like for me, why I didn't get into weed very much was because when I was a kid, I have pictures of this is my biological father.
Yeah.
He's like sitting in a garden full of fucking marijuana plants, and he like has his hands up and he looks all shirt off, and this is like a 80s picture, little fucking cut off shorts and looking like the fucking godfather of marijuana, sitting in this marijuana plants that he grew. And then it became from marijuana to doing whatever he was doing with marijuana to doing stronger drugs, and then eventually led to him doing heroin, and then methamphetamines and heroin. PCP was his thing, and then it became where like he ended up dying and this overdosing or dying from it and having like whatever, being on life support at the end and then passing away. But that's why like it was just like I seen it just kind of go from here. And I remember as a kid he was making like making pipes in our garage and welding them like out of like copper, making these copper pipes and welding them, and he was like showing us how to do it, and it was like, this is my biological dad. So it was like, after my mom and him divorced, it was like every time I heard about him, he was just getting into a different drug. So it was just like, was this his gateway into like getting into other drugs, because for me it was just like seeing him go from this to that it was really hard, especially being a young kid and seeing your dad make marijuana pipes, or whatever pipes he was smoking shit out of.
Well, I mean, you basically had a negative connotation connect to it on every level. So why would you think it's a good thing from your own personal experience?
Yeah, I was just like, fuck that. I mean, I know kids experimented with it, even, my kids, but it's just like... No,
your kids wouldn't do stuff like that.
They probably wouldn't tell me.
Never.
But,
right, guys?
But, I'm pretty strict. So it's like, I don't want to smell it. I don't want it around my daughter, my baby. I don't want her smelling that shit.
Around the baby.
I don't want her smelling that shit, just because as a child, like I knew what it was like to see my parents or my dad do that shit.
It's good that you say that too, because I do take big, I don't want to say pride, but I do make sure that I am not near my kids when I do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just normalize things at such a young age. I don't want them, I don't want them to think anything about it. I don't want them to think negatively about it, and I don't want them to think positive about it. I don't think they need to be thinking about it at all. My oldest is 6 years old.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be thinking about substances at all. He shouldn't be thinking about alcohol. He shouldn't be thinking now.
Like even
every time I have a beer,
yeah.
I let him smell it. Now the problem with my kids is they like the way it smells, so maybe they're like me. But they don't like the way it tastes. I give them a little sip.
Yeah,
I'm like, here, try a little sip. A little sip ain't gonna kill them. But you know why I do it? Is like when I was a kid, the same thing happened to me. They say, here, try a little sip of this Budweiser. It's probably regular Budweiser. I fucking hated it, and I didn't touch beer or even want to drink it until I was 16 and I was at a party.
Yeah.
But at that age, you're gonna do shit. So like, I thought that's pretty good. I'm like, I went a great amount of years saying I don't want alcohol, I don't care, and then eventually, peer pressure kicks in. You want to hang out.
Well, you know how I got my first alcohol was like, I was in my neighborhood, and I lived in the gang neighborhood. We had these fucking beach cruisers, and I thought it was like Debo. So I go down with my buddies to the fucking local liquor store down the street.
Yeah.
And there was like homeless dudes out there. I'm like, here's a couple bucks.
Oh yeah, you tap shoulders. Yeah.
Buy me some Mickeys.
Hell yeah.
My first time driving, fucking open a bag of Mickeys. That was cool. Fucking cruise on the fucking lowrider bike back to the neighborhood. Fucking pop open some Mickeys and fucking drink it and spit it right out.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
And I actually don't hate Mickeys, so I'm like, no,
I thought it was a shit. And then I got into like the OE. The
Old English?
Yeah,
fuck. Do you drink terrible beer? No wonder you hate fucking...
I was like 16 cruising my beach cruiser.
Yeah.
Down my neighborhood like fucking Debo. Fucking just drinking.
Did you ever drink 211?
No, I didn't really try.
We did the 211.
No.
But that's like OE. It's basically the same shit. It's like formaldehyde and a 40.
I mean, maybe. I just knew Old English and Mickey's back then.
Did you ever do Edward 40 hands?
No.
Ah.
I only stuck to those and then Miller once in a while.
Oh God, I hate Miller, but I did Miller too when I was younger too.
Yeah, and then it was just like for me it was horrible first experience.
Terrible.
But I was like, I mean, just picture me as a kid, shaved head, cruising down the street like
probably
fucking
scary.
Debo.
People probably thought you were gonna rob him. Case in the neighborhood.
Yeah, case in the dude, there's this big dude.
Dude, this guy's leisurely case in the neighborhood with his case of beer.
Yeah, fucking beanie on, fucking cruising down
Tell
the
me
street.
you had a basket and you're holding the beers in it.
Yeah. No, I literally had a lowrider bike, dude, and just fucking
You're just holding the bag.
That was a thing in
On
my
the
neighborhood. It
handlebars?
was like every kid had a lowrider bike.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
those are
just
cool.
sort
The
of-
cruisers.
Yeah, we had our cruisers, man, and we would customize them. So we'd bondo them and fucking paint them, and then fucking customize them. That's just how we were.
Did you know? Shifting back into the cannabis thing, did you know UFC removed weed from banned substances last year in December? So it's no
marijuana-
longer a substance they test for, and it doesn't matter if you test positive for it.
Well, don't they do it with steroids too?
That I don't know.
I thought they passed where you can like they're not going to test for steroids.
I think the way they worded it, especially with weed, was like they wanted to make sure as long as it's not a performance enhancing.
Yeah.
So I would imagine steroids can always be performance enhancing. So maybe with that, it's like
Well, the crazy
I don't
part
know
is
how you
like,
check that though, because once it's in your blood, how do they know how early you put it in?
well, here's the crazy part. Even we can look it up. Is like, didn't they do like Nick Diaz? They give him 5 years, like suspension from the UFC for marijuana.
Yeah, but they're not going to change that. I mean, it's just
It's like,
well,
dude, did you guys set him up?
well,
like,
dude, think
to
about
fucking-
Josh Gordon, who played for the Cleveland Browns and basically got kicked out of the NFL, and he had probably would have been one of the greats, or at least a great player, and had no NFL career because they kept suspending him year after year.
Dude, same thing with Nick Diaz. Is like the guy was a great fighter, fucking one of the best fighters, still the best fighters in the world. Like took 5 years off his fucking career because he tested positive of marijuana.
Well, and he's not going to get that back.
Yeah, he's never going to get 5 years of his life back or whatever they suspend him. The
Well,
guy's
and the
the
problem
greatest.
is I don't even think that's Dana. Well, technically, that was kind of Dana, but I would
I'm
say
a huge Nick Diaz fan, so it's like
I think I don't know how much pull Dana had back then either. I feel like he was still growing. He wasn't the big entity he is now.
Yeah.
So and even with as big as he is now, I don't think he has real pull with drug policy people in the government. So I feel like a lot of these things are at the mercy of, cool, if we legalize it, it's still federally illegal.
Yeah.
So now we're putting ourselves at risk at being audited from the government. So I think that's kind of what it is. I think a lot of places don't want to be that organization that says we're cool with it, even though the federal government that allows us to operate here isn't. Yeah, I think that's a little conflict.
Well,
but,
how many fighters' careers were ruined because of this?
Oh, I bet you countless. I'm
Yeah.
sure that number is probably in the hundreds or thousands.
I mean, this is how they make their livings, how they feed their families.
Because you got to
It's
think,
just-
even like undercards or even non-UFC, like how many places couldn't even. So then these guys are also forced to take other shit,
Yeah.
right? That is just. It's not that it's better or legal. It's just that it's not detected on a test.
Yeah.
So how many fucking how many guys go out to Thailand or a random country where they're gonna take some pills that help them out, but
Yeah.
what the fuck, in 10 years they got cancer.
For me, like, honestly, it just pissed me off because I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan. I've been watching him since Pride days. The kid is fucking amazing. He's always been an amazing fighter. Always will be one of the best fighters in the fucking world. I don't care what anyone says, hands down. The fucking guy can fucking throw hooks. He can give them right back. He can take fucking shots. He's fucking awesome with jiu-jitsu. He's awesome with stand-up. He's beat some of the best fighters in the world. And then you go suspend him because he tests positive for marijuana. Then becomes legal, and then you're saying it's okay now.
Mm-hmm.
You just took this kid's fucking years and years away because of marijuana.
Well, and I agree, but the same could be said about people that did hard time. How
Oh,
many
yeah,
people
that's
that were
true.
locked up for that shit too, man?
Aren't they getting out though? A lot of them.
I mean, now, but what, you did 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years
Your whole life's
or
over.
longer.
Your kids are grown up. They don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how many people, their lives were ruined because of something they could have just been on probation for, or they could have just had community service. Like, they didn't even need to be locked up. You know what I
Well,
mean?
Here's the other part. Me kind of playing devil's advocate on there. Was it because
Well, I think
because of the marijuana that they were smuggling, or was it who they were smuggling for?
Well, okay, so that's a good point. I think it depends on the crime, right? So if you're getting in trouble for soliciting or selling an illegal substance, then sure. But if it's just because you had it in possession and it wasn't like intent to sell, it was just because you had it on you, and they deemed that amount an illegal amount, which isn't it's not like you had a pound. It's not like you had a pound in your trunk.
Yeah.
What if you just had an eighth? You know, that nowadays
Yeah.
you go to the store and buy it for $25 or $40 or whatever it is. But that eighth got you in fucking jail.
Well, I think there's some states that still will lock you
Oh,
up.
dude, for sure. Texas is
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, Florida too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you
So,
have
but that's
marijuana-
what I mean.
Yeah.
So some of these guys weren't even drug dealers. They were just literally copping a bag. And guess what? Now you're going to jail.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, because to jump into that,
But here's the other part, though. I'm just saying, just not trying to hate, just being just open-minded,
no,
thinking my
this is why
side
we have
is like,
conversations.
is like the people that got popped just for an eighth. But how many times did they get in trouble for possessions of other drugs or just that drug?
Oh, I mean,
That just
sure.
led case after case to case, it led them in prison.
No, I mean, I get that, but I think that there's plenty of people that weren't. I mean, I think those people were going to get in trouble anyway, sure, but that doesn't mean that the system's operating correctly.
Yeah.
I do think it became a tool for the police to do deductive reasoning on. Like, okay, cool, your car smells like weed. I'm not really worried about weed, but if your car smells like weed, maybe you got coke, maybe you got heroin. So I feel like, sure, then it becomes an investigative, like, downstairs where you're just like, okay, now I can climb up this ladder and figure out what these people have. But then I do think that, unfortunately, for the people that were just doing the weed, they got lumped in the category with those people. And that's the problem, is where's the line? I think there should be lines. Like, you shouldn't be treating people that, like I'm talking about, with the people that you're talking about. Because the people you're talking about had the intent to do something.
Yeah.
They knew it was illegal. They're trying to make money off of it. And just like selling illegal alcohol, moonshining, you can go to jail for that too. So it's no different than selling illegal street weed. I
Yeah.
get that. But I'm just saying, for the people that got pulled over on a speeding ticket or something like that, and, oh, you also have a bag in your car, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Well, okay, so I want to get your opinion on it. Is like how much now that the cannabis clubs that exist, how much how much how much do the cartels have doing business with these guys?
So, I mean, cannabis clubs have to operate under the, I think it's the BCC, which is the Bureau of something cannabis. I should know that better. But They're the ones who regulate all your paperwork. They're the ones who can come in and audit. They're the ones who can seize your crop in a farm. So they're like the feds, right? Mm-hmm. So you're operating under their umbrella. And if you have to provide paperwork of where your growers are growing, you can't use cartel weed. Anyone who's legitimate with paperwork, unless they're falsifying it, they cannot use cartel weed because the U.S. government will be like, what? So you acquired this from a crime syndicate that operates out of the United States, and then you're going to flip that weed and sell it here? So you can't do that.
But do they really operate?
That doesn't mean they don't do that. I'm just saying you would have to falsify documents. You would have to – I'm sure it can be done. I just think it's a little risky because I feel like a lot of these businesses aren't huge to the point where they're smart enough legally to find ways to sneak around the government yet. So I think they would probably get caught. And I've worked for some of these companies, and they're not always the smartest.
Because here's the – like I used to work with a guy, and he would come in on the they did contract work. He'd come in on the helicopters. They would drop down into the marijuana fields up in like Humboldt or other parts of California,
right?
And then really see who's taking over these fields. But those fields were owned by Pacific people. They had like acres and acres and acres of fields, and they had no control or no idea who was operating drugs on their fields. And so they would come in, jump down, and try to secure the fields, and they would find that the cartels were
infiltrating the farms.
That's for what I was told. Yeah,
I've heard the same thing, like bullying them, kind of like doing what the mob did to people.
Yeah, like
hey, if you don't want us to take all your shit, give us a cut of what you make.
Well, he didn't get that deep, but yeah, it was pretty much like you're saying. Yeah, he was just coming in. They were coming in, and they would try to secure the fields and chase them out of there. But
I think that's happening. But I do think.
But if there's people selling it legally now in cannabis clubs, like who's buying off the streets now, like marijuana? If you just walk into a cannabis club, is the kids?
So I can't. I'm gonna say it like this purposely because I want to. I can't confirm or deny that I buy my cannabis legitimately. I can't confirm or deny that I do that. Hopefully that explains what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I mean by that too is that's a great point. So it's like basically you're kind of getting at, hey, you have to use these legitimate avenues so you don't make sure you're funding crime syndicates. That's a true point, right? Because that's true. The street weed you might buy, you don't know where it's grown. They could lie to you. That's true. But here's just like what I mentioned earlier. What about the people that are buying legitimate weed that isn't tampered with in an illegal way but has pesticides in it? So then what do you, as a consumer, what do you want to do? Do you want to risk being a law-abiding citizen and potentially kill yourself in the long run? Or do you want to just take your chances with some street weed and know, hey, I don't feel bad. I that's the problem with it is who do you trust? Even the government, who tobacco, cigarettes are legal. How bad is that for us? And that's federally regulated.
Even with the street weed, though, if you're buying it from street weed from the streets, and those say it is connected to a syndicate, like a crime syndicate or organized crime, those are the same people who are selling fentanyl that's killing people every single day. So you're helping them fund the fentanyl line that's coming into the United States and killing our kids and adults.
But see, that's just as conclusive as me saying every time I go out and buy cigarettes, I'm supporting big tobacco, which is doing the same thing. I mean, who owns big tobacco? These big companies, right? And you don't think those big companies have their hands in other shit? So at the end of the day, I feel like it's all the same.
Yeah.
I feel like it's whether you're following the laws they put in place or whether you're not. Because at the end of the day, morally, everything's compromised and corruption is everywhere.
Please drop your comments. Let us know what you're feeling.
I think even federally regulated shit is corrupt. So I don't think there's a safe haven. I think you're less in risk of being arrested or being in trouble when you follow the rules. But does that mean you're being healthier? No.
Let me ask you this question: are you pro-government or anti-government?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm pro-government with an asterisk.
Okay.
I'm pro-small government.
Okay.
I don't like over-regulations. I don't think it helps anything. I like people having a choice. Just to get on my soapbox, politically how I affiliate myself, I'm a libertarian. I like you having your space. I like me having my space. And you dictate how you handle yours, and I dictate how I handle mine, and that's my beliefs. So that's why I respond that way, or that's why I not respond. That's why I affiliate that way. I think to me that's the thing that makes the most sense for me. So I like government. I don't like big government.
You don't like big corporations?
I don't like things being overregulated. I don't like monopolies, which we all have right now. They say they don't, but it's very obvious we have monopolies with banking, with our food industry.
How much change do you think we could see with the marijuana industry?
I don't think it's going to be good change. I'm someone
They're
who
going to tax them, right?
partakes in it, and I think it's going to turn into tobacco. I think it's going to become legal, and they're going to start putting all the crap and additives in it that they put in cigarettes, and it's going to become just as unhealthy.
So you can walk in your local liquor store and just
100%, yeah.
Instead of buying
You can buy Captain Morgan. How fucked up could you be if you drank half that bottle in the car? You can go to the gas station. You could swig that thing in the parking lot. You could be out of your fucking mind, and you could do that. Huh? No, I know. No, I know. But I'm just saying, like, that's really no different.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like, I think I don't know how far away we are from that, but I think eventually you're going to go to Walmart and you're going to get a 20-pack of fucking joints or 30-pack of blunts or something for, like, you know what I mean? And it's going to be shit. It's going to be crap product. And that's the thing I don't like is I know once this becomes federally legal, it's going to be the Tyson chicken nuggets of weed, dude. It's going to be like this doped up crap product that is no longer based on holistic, whether you believe it's holistic or not, it's not going to be a medicine anymore. Yeah. It's going to be no different than the ibuprofen, the Xanax, all the shit that we're seeing settlements for.
Even alcohol for us, like for me, I'm Native American. I got a lot of Native American blood in me from my grandfather. And this has always been our biggest problem.
And how legal is that, dude? And
it's 100% legal.
Historically, that is something that they kind of pushed on Native Americans too, 100%. Didn't they?
100%.
The American government pushed
have
fucking alcohol.
I have cousins that will tell you, sit there and tell you that this has been their biggest problem.
But the American government help that out too, though, I think.
Exactly.
Because they're like, here, have a plot of land, and here's all the fucking booze you can fucking go. And I think they really wanted Native Americans to destroy themselves. I mean, they didn't really give them the toolkit to fucking.
Well, that's why a lot of the reservations we're seeing a lot of meth now, and a lot of reservations, a lot of the crime, a lot of meth. They don't have the fundings that they need out there to get the help, or just like I'm very in tune with my Native American culture. Like I have high beliefs in it, and I will always carry that with me just because of my grandfather's beliefs. But it was very instilled in me as a young child, like this is your bloodline and this is the bloodline you need to carry. Mm-hmm. But I've seen a lot of my cousins, a lot of family, a lot of other Native Americans just turn to alcohol or other drugs, and being pushed on them because it's very poor still. I mean, there's not the reservations. I don't know if you've ever been to a res, but it's not very. They're not living very rich.
No,
they're living very poor.
They're just kind of like outcasts from society in a way.
They give you a piece of land. It's like, this is your land, right? But I guess we'll say that for another podcast.
No, I mean, well, to add to what you're saying real quick too, I do think it's funny because they are the original people of the land we call home, and how much history do we even know about all of it? We don't know jack shit. I mean, down when I was in Joshua Tree, they have this whole area that talks about how the natives down there lived forever.
Yeah.
In the desert, under rocks and shit.
Yeah.
And they made it work, and it's like, I lived in California my whole life. I don't even know about the Native Americans that lived locally here, and it's like, how many other places in the world can you go where you're like, I don't know shit about where I am here? It's like, we're not in touch with any of the history about this country. All the history we based off this country is less than 300 years old. That's very new. And like, there's so much I think we can learn from history farther back. And we need to embrace and understand the culture that was the Native Americans, because they lived here for thousands and thousands of years just fine. Yeah. So don't you think we could learn something from that culture? Don't you think there's things to be taken?
Well, even the Polynesian culture. My wife's Polynesian. My wife's Polynesian, and I was just reading an article the other day. I read a lot, especially about the cultures, and I try to figure out, because a lot of the tattoos, they look similar with the natives and Polynesian tattoos, or even just in general, like I see the tattoos and they look a lot in Filipino tattoos. It's all Polynesian and natives, and I try to figure out like how was there a connection back in the days. And I was reading this article that they used to do trade in the water, like the natives and Polynesians.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how true that is, but the article was saying like how they were doing a lot of trades back then just for food, and a lot of the things were identical. Even I mean, they weren't blasted up like us, but they had their tattoos,
Right.
and the warrior tattoos of the natives. But it was just a lot of it. There's so much we can learn from it, like even like the marijuana, the peyote, things like that.
Peyote is a Schedule 1 narcotic.
Yeah.
You can't do that either.
But stuff they were doing
Yeah.
back then. I mean, there's like so much to learn that we haven't even tried to tap into yet.
Would you ever go somewhere and do an ayahuasca trip?
You know what? I've been asked.
Like if one day I came up to you and I said, I got the money, we can do a round trip to Costa Rica and we could go do ayahuasca. Would you be able, would you one, want to do it, and two, be able to do it?
I don't know, man. It's a good question.
So would you want to do it though?
Probably.
Or is that the I don't know part?
Probably.
You probably would.
Yeah. I mean, anything that has to do with the.
Because the other thing I want to mention too is, and I'm sure you know this, is a lot of people with PTSD have gone that route, and it's helped them reset their brain to the point where they can start feeling like I'm who I was before this shit happened.
So I went on this trip with my parents and my stepdad and my mom years ago. It was a couple years ago. I bought this brand new car and was like, let's just take a trip back to Texas and see grandma before grandma passed. And we're driving down there, and we pulled off on the res, and there's this Walmart, and we drove up in there, and I got down in the Walmart. Dude, how much I look like those people that were on the res. I felt home. I felt like I was at home. I told my mom I could stay here.
Yeah.
Like, bye. And my stepdad, who's doesn't have any native in him, or maybe he does, like he just doesn't know, was like, you look like everybody here, dude. Like, you guys all have the same features. Like, you look so much native. Like, this is your home. And I was like, this is home for me, man.
Yeah.
So my nickname my grandfather gave me was Red.
Red?
So it was Red.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And it was because they said that when I came out, I was super red.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they would call me Red. My cousins would call me Rad, just to make fun of it. Yeah.
Because it's rad.
Yeah. But it was Red. So that has always been my nickname. So my parents would call me Red. That's the nickname. They would call me by my nickname, Red. So then my stepdad was calling me Red Cloud. So when we're crossing we had to pass this border checkpoint to get back. This is like border checkpoints in Texas. Come back to California. And they're like, who do you have back there? And he's like, Red Cloud.
Red Cloud.
You got Red Cloud back
That's
there.
a sick name.
Yeah.
Is that your native name?
It was Red, but not Red Cloud.
Red Cloud's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It sounds super legit.
Yeah. But he was just making fun of me. But
yeah.
I mean, just going to the res, man.
Stepdad was hella trolling, dude.
Yeah. I mean, that always stuck with me. But going back to the res, like, I would live on any reservation if they would accept me. I would raise my kids on there. My daughter, she's Native American, Polynesian, bro. Like, she's like, that mix is fucking crazy.
So I was going to ask you too, basically, like, one, it's kind of a two-part question, but one, when you went there, even though you look like them, they probably smelled the outsider on you still, right?
For sure, dude. They could probably see it on
do
me.
they
I was all dressed in like nice clothes.
Did they accept you, or was it kind of weird? They're filling you out, right?
No, I didn't feel like anything. I mean, they probably looked at me like, look at that dude. Like, I mean, I was wearing like nice clothes, like not like the super brand. Back then I was younger, so I had like cool brands on and
right,
cool Nikes and shit like that. I mean, but just the facial experience.
But you felt all right. Do you think they would welcome?
Man.
Would you be able to go there and live there? You think?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean,
does that work that way? Or
I've been going to like powwows since I was a kid. I never had an issue going to powwows and just being around.
You just couldn't take me in there, dude.
I don't
get
know.
This fucking.
See, that's the thing, man. A lot of people feel like natives are, like all the natives I've met, even some of the ones I have on my Facebook and I've talked to, like, I don't think they would necessarily hate on you.
Yeah.
You know, coming into their land. I mean, if you're coming in as a guest, I don't know how it works for them.
Right.
But I know a lot of them are peaceful people, man. They don't want problems,
Like most people.
Yeah. Like it's just like, even for me, we're coming into the Polynesian community, like with my wife and going to all the Polynesian community events, like I'm accepted. Like I feel nothing but open arms.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what made me fall in love with the Polynesian community.
Mm-hmm.
Was like, they accept me, like this is like, we might not be 100% native, but this is still my people.
Yeah. On a human race level, you guys are.
Yeah. I feel like they're my people.
Right.
Like, I feel like this is my people. This is where I belong. Like when I see the ceremonies and I'm going to all these different things and different events, like I feel like this is where I belong. Even getting the tattoos I've had, the native tattoo, the Polynesian tattoo, I've done it for me and my daughter. Like I feel connected.
Yeah.
Like this is a part of, somehow we're connected as part of my history. If not, as part of my daughter's history. My little
Right,
girl's
and that's
history,
part of you.
Yeah.
Right.
My
No,
wife's
I get that.
Hawaiian Filipina, and this is part of my daughter's. I'm Native American. I carry a lot of Native American blood in me, and so is my family. And this is a part of like my daughter's history. This is a part of her culture.
Hell yeah.
So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I like that, dude, and I think it's important to get back to your roots.
Yeah, I feel there's a lot of warrior blood there. Like, my dad always preached like he would always talk to me about it's my mom's dad who had a lot of the native in him. And he would always tell me like, you look exactly like your grandpa. And your grandpa was like this tough warrior. My grandpa was born in 1919. He fought in like one of the first wars. He was shot in the back, and and he was like, I have a picture of him, how much he made. It was like a few bucks just being in the military back then. But he's super native. I mean, even like his memorial stuff in the house is like Native American belt buckles. Like it's fucking like, man, he used to ride around on his little bike and then collect cans. But he worked in the fields for so long just to support his family.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very strict. But that's who my grandfather was, and they say I carry a lot of that warrior mentality from him.
That's awesome.
He was just
dude.
a tough motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like a lot of that. Even my cousins. I have cousins that were military, fucking served in the war, and they carry a lot of that in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I think that's good for this week.
Yeah.
We can wrap it up.
Yeah.
I think we got pretty deep in the cannabis talk, and hopefully it opened up some guys' eyes and some girls' eyes here, and whoever in between.
We know off and on culture stuff.
No, but that's the thing. We had a gist of what we want to do today, but that doesn't mean we're going to stick to it completely. We always want to converse.
Next week, I kind of want to get our next podcast, or when we shoot the next one, I want to get your idea about jiu-jitsu and see how much of a trend it's become on Instagram.
Okay.
And how much MMA has kind of fallen out when MMA used to be a trend.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
Like
yeah,
that's
how interesting. How MMA is kind of taking a backseat to jiu-jitsu in a way.
And jiu-jitsu is becoming this huge trend that we're seeing people compete at different levels, ADCC, Jiu-Jitsu League, IBJJF, and how it's become this huge thing where everyone's doing jiu-jitsu now.
Yeah.
And how it's different from when I first started back in the 2000s to now, and how you feel. So that's why I kind of want to talk about our next one, is kind of get into
we could compare like how I feel with how you felt back then.
Yeah, because I feel like even like before we cut it off, is that the jiu-jitsu topic is that there's a lot of, back then there was a lot of respect. Now there's a lot of like, I feel like even tournaments, there's just disrespect.
Yeah.
At certain levels. Like I see people shit talking at tournaments that I'm going to beat this guy. But are you really beating him? Because if this is an MMA fight, would you really beat that person?
Right.
So like what let's get into that topic next.
Yeah,
time.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button, and follow us on Instagram at the Wolves Den Howls podcast.
Yep. Wolves Den Howls. HOWLS.
And to get your and to get your merch, go to Tactical Inc. On Instagram and order your merch.
Hell yeah. Look clean, look good. Especially when you got to go to court. Maybe you can rock one of our shorts.
Hell yeah. Oos.
Fuck that up later. Bye.
All right, bye.